I guess nothing's happening, so there's seemingly nothing that we can do to change our external circumstances. We slump down to complacency. We spend more time on our phones. We sleep more. We eat more. We do everything more but anything that ultimately changes things in our lives. But in those moments, we feel stuck. In those moments of complacency, in those moments when there's nothing that we might be able to do to advance in our external circumstances, there are still 3 specific things that we can partake in that I believe can actually move us forward, even in a time that feels impossible to move forward. Hey, welcome back to the Andrew Ramon Show. I'm so happy that you've tuned in. Can y'all believe it? We are at the very end of the year. We've made it to the 12th lap, final lap. Don't give up yet. We're almost there. I mean, to be honest with you, I cannot believe that we're already in December. Well, at least here in Texas, I can't tell you. I'm based out of Dallas. It feels like we're having fall for winter. We never really had the fall. We went from summer to kind of really cold, and all of a sudden we're getting our fall back. Don't ask me how that works. I guess it's just Texas. There's the explanation. It's just Texas. But anyways, I'm so glad that you've tuned in. Hey, make sure to subscribe on the show on YouTube and on podcasts, and follow, on Spotify, and leave a review, do all that good stuff. And also, one quick note, follow me on Instagram so you can be part of a special surprise coming for the end of the year. You don't want to miss it. It's going to be the 100th episode of the show. And I got something special to share with you, and maybe a little giveaway for you to be part of. So follow me on Instagram for more information coming up pretty soon. Hey, I don't know y'all, but when it comes to the end of the year, it's always kind of like an end of the year review, right? You always kind of review how the year went. If it was 2020, it was like the most intense year we've ever had. 2021, it's kind of like a half, maybe half seas for some people. I'm sure it was great. For others, it wasn't so good. But the thing about the 24 hours that we live, right? Because a year is don't ask me how many hours. It's a lot of hours. The interesting thing is we can both go through a Monday and our Mondays be completely different, right? We can live the same 24 hours, technically speaking, but it can go so differently for the both of us. Maybe you had a great day yesterday, maybe it wasn't. Maybe you're listening right now as it comes out early in the morning. You're starting your Monday morning, all great. Or maybe it's already started with a fiasco because Starbucks didn't have your drink. I get it. We all start a little bit different. But there are times in our lives when things go well. If we're honest, right? It's not always bad, but the truth is not always good either. Maybe right now school is going well. Maybe work is going well. Maybe your relationships with your family or with friends, everything's kind of thriving. You're feeling good health-wise. Your paycheck's good, right? The pay is good. So life is feeling pretty good right now. Awesome. But there's also the other side of the coin. Maybe it doesn't feel that way right now. Because there are moments in life when we feel stuck. Do you feel stuck right now? Stuck to what, you might ask? Great question. Let's answer this in this episode. There are times when we feel stuck. When we feel like nothing's happening in our lives. When all of a sudden things have come to a stop. Maybe things were great and you were kind of all taking all these steps forward in work and your education and personally, maybe professionally, whatever the case may be. But then there are times when all of a sudden things stop. Maybe in the work that you've been hustling, you've been working hard, but there's no promotion in sight. There's almost no advancement. Maybe it's in a relationship that just can't seem to heal. And maybe it's in a habit of yours that you can't seem to break and you just feel stuck. In these times, it's easy to feel discouraged. It's easy to feel frustrated, and it's a real emotion. But it is in these moments when there's nothing happening that it's so easy to feel like there's nothing to do, right? It's kind of like just sit on your hands and wait for it to pass. We use words like this too shall pass from the scriptures, which is great and it's encouraging, but it kind of just makes us sit in our hands and say, okay, well, I guess nothing's happening, so there's seemingly nothing that we can do to change our external circumstances. We slump down to complacency. We spend more time on our phones. We spend more time sleeping. We sleep more. We eat more. We do everything more, but anything that ultimately changes things in our lives. And I get that. And the only reason I'm doing this episode is because personally, I needed to hear what I'm going to share with you today. Because there are times when there's nothing to do because there's nothing happening. And today, I want to share with you that there's actually 3 things we can do when there's seemingly nothing to do. I know, it sounds like a contradiction in terms. But in those moments we feel stuck, in those moments of complacency, in those moments when there's nothing that we might be able to do to advance in our external circumstances, there are still 3 specific things that we can partake in, to no longer use the word do, that I believe can actually move us forward, even in a time that feels impossible to move forward. So we're going to go through each of these, and I'll kind of name them off here, and then we'll go through each of these, and I think it's going to be very encouraging to you, as it was for me. So 3 things. We can always pray, read, and give. Now, don't jump to any assumptions of what you might think I might say about these things, because at least for the pray section and then some other the other 2 sections as well, we're going to talk about some biblical references that I think will really help us to see that we're not the only ones who have felt stuck before. Because I'll just tell you personally, this year has been pretty good. Like, work has been steady. It's just been a lot of grinding, a lot of growth, which, in the company that I work for. So it's been a huge blessing. And it's just been a lot of grind, a lot of hustle. I'll be honest with you. It's tiring, but it's good. It's good work. Personally, it's been okay, I've been out of college for a couple of years now, so I'm not doing anything there kind of educationally. But that's kind of resurfaced in my head. I'm like, should I do something educationally? Or I'm actually starting to get my real estate license, even though I might not become a realtor at some point, but it helps me in the industry that I'm in right now. But it has, in some ways, with some of the things that I feel God has called me, it has felt a little bit stuck. Maybe like, hey, God, it's not moving as fast as I've wanted it to. Have you told yourself ever, maybe when you're honest by yourself and you're just like, man, I thought I'd be somewhere else by now. I'm just feeling stuck right now. Well, these are the 3 things that encouraged me, that I feel God revealed to me personally first, and I want to share them with you. So the first thing is prayer. You see, prayer is amazing because you can do it whenever, however. It's an all-access hotline to God. Like, it's not a 9-to-5 thing, and then after hours, God sends you to voicemail. That's not how prayer works. Like, you can actually have a conversation with Him whenever, whatever time it might be, whenever it might be. Wait, is that the same thing? Whenever and whatever time? I think that's the same thing. Perdón, es que mira, ustedes saben que yo soy mexicano, ¿verdad? Yo soy mexicano y a veces como que la gramática en inglés como que me confunde mucho. Anyways, if you didn't understand that, it was just my excuse of getting my terminology incorrect. But it's true. Prayer is something incredible. It's like, the Bible tells us that with prayer and because of the sacrifice of Jesus, when you are a child of God, you have all access, and that's all access. Have you ever paid for like a membership? Right? You have like a membership, and then you have like the free trial, right? And there's like the pro version and then like the limited version. I have a lot of limited versions of a lot of apps. I don't know about you. I got the free 99 version, where it's just like I can do one thing and every other thing that I try to do has like 3 ads in the middle of it. That's me right there. Maybe you relate with me, or maybe you bougie, bro. Hey, if you bougie and you just pay that $5 or you pay the pro membership, that's awesome. But with prayer, so I don't know if we treat it like if there's like a free version and then we're like, well, I don't know. The free version is that we can pray to God whenever we're desperate. That's when really God listens to us. But other than that, I guess it's like a pro membership or an all access membership that I got to pay for. Well, honey, can I tell you something? Jesus already paid for it. And you have an all access membership, all access subscription to the hotline of God, to the throne of God. And this is something amazing about prayer, is that even when your outside circumstances don't seem to be changing, here's what prayer does. Prayer does change your outside circumstances. It does, because God does something amazing. But even when it seems like nothing's happening on the outside, prayer can change you. And that's one of the most important things, if not the most important things in people that need to change, is you, my friend, is me. You see, Gandhi said this, right? Gandhi said that you should be the change that you want to see in the world. Well, a lot of times we're like, God, change everything around me, change everything around me. Hey, great. And I'm sure God will somehow do it and work through it in His timing. But what if prayer was more dedicated to change you as well in the process of it? It's something amazing that we can do no matter how stuck we feel. Prayer can be that common denominator, whether in the good times or in the bad times, we can continue to pray. In Daniel chapter 6, we hear an interesting story. I don't know if you're familiar with Bible stories, but Daniel is a man in in the kingdom of Babylon, right? He has been through a lot. He's been through a lot of different kings, whether it be Nebuchadnezzar, Belshazzar, and now Darius, and he's been through a lot. He has this gift of interpretation, of interpretive dreams. You probably heard about the three boys that were thrown to the fire, right? Was it Meshach, Abednego? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Thank you very much. Sorry, I was trying to remember my VeggieTales story. And I was like, okay, Shadrach. There was a tomato. There was a cucumber, and there was like a little pea. Sorry, that's just how I learned Bible stories. I don't know about you. Anyways, back to the story. So Daniel is interesting because in this moment he's under the king Darius. Now, up to this point, Daniel has done a lot of great stuff. I mean, his life is going pretty well, not without any hurdles. Okay, but I want to start in Daniel chapter 6, verse 1 to kind of paint the picture of what's going on, because there's going to be a moment when Daniel has a decision of what he should do when there's seemingly nothing to do. So in verse 1, it says this: it pleased Darius to appoint 120 as satraps. Now, satraps, just a quick context, was a provincial governor, especially like in Babylon and Persia, where he would just take care of provinces. And so that's a little note. Okay, let's continue. So it pleased Darius to appoint 120 satraps to rule throughout the kingdom, with 3 administrators over them, one of whom was Daniel. Now, these satraps were made accountable to those administrators so that the king might not suffer loss. Now, here's something really cool. Now, Daniel so distinguished himself among the administrators and the satraps by his exceptional qualities that the king planned to set him over the whole kingdom. Yo, if life is not going good right now, I don't know what is. Did you hear that last part? That the king was actually planning to set Daniel over the whole kingdom? Now, remember, Daniel up to this point interpreted some crazy things, like writings on the wall, some crazy dreams. And after King Belshazzar came the current king that we're talking about right now, Darius. Now, Darius was like a new CEO of a company. He started moving things around. Some people liked it, others not so much. It kind of brushed their feathers a little bit. Well, something interesting is, in verse 3, you see that Darius starts moving, and he starts kind of sharing his plans a little bit, that he was actually setting Daniel up to be the one in charge over the whole kingdom. Because remember, there were 120 satraps, and above them, there were 3 coordinators, if you will. And then Darius wanted Daniel to be the one on top of those coordinators, basically almost second in command. This is giant. I mean, this is huge. Things are going really good for Daniel. Isn't it awesome when things are going really well in our lives? I mean, let's just be honest. Maybe right now you got some good professors at school. You're feeling good. You're getting some good grades. You're getting some good help. Maybe you got a good boss at work. You love your coworkers. You got a good work relationships. Maybe school's actually doing pretty good. Or, man, your paycheck's coming in, and you know what? Hey, there's a promotion in line, isn't there? Wow, man. Maybe you're in great health. I mean, those things are awesome. When things are going, when they're moving forward, things are great. Just like Daniel. And then the unexpected happens. Verse 4. At this point, the administrators and the satraps tried to find grounds for charges against Daniel in his conduct of government affairs, but they were unable to do so. They could find no corruption in him because he was trustworthy and neither corrupt nor negligent. Finally, these men said, quick note, you know I love accents. I feel like every bad guy's either like a British guy, which is more of a softer voice, right? You really think you can do that? You know, that type of bad guy. Or is a good Russian. Russians are always bad guys. I don't know why. I don't know. I don't think a Russian man is bad guy. I do not think so. My brothers and sisters in Russia, you're a good people. I know that. But in movies, for some reason, they put a Russian man. You know, there is a bad guy. I planted a bomb. It just sounds like, oh my gosh, this guy's house bad, you know? Again, nothing to do with Russian people. So I feel like these guys are kind of nefarious, but they're also like, this is the voice I would put it. If it was like, finally these men said, we will never find any basis for charges against this man Daniel, unless it has something to do with the law of God. Right? Because that's just what bad guys do. Important note here. The devil is always planning something bad. It's just true. He's always got plans brewing, okay? So just hold that note. Verse 6, it says this. So the administrators and satraps went as a group to the king and said, my king Darius, live forever. Have you ever watched The Emperor's New Groove? I feel like that's, what's her name? Isma, right? I watched it in Spanish mainly. Isma. Kronk, el emperador tiene hambre. Oh, sí, mis empanadas de pollo. Maybe if you speak Spanish, you're gonna get what I said. But I just feel like they're just trying to tug on the king's strings, right? So it goes like this. Verse 6. May the king live forever, King Darius. The royal administrators, prefects, satraps, advisors, and governors have all agreed that the king should edict and enforce a decree that anyone who prays to any god, any human being during the next 30 days, except you, your majesty, of course, shall be thrown into the lion's den. Now, your majesty, issue this decree and put it in writing so that it cannot be altered in accordance with the law of Medes and Persians, which cannot be repealed. So, King Darius put it into decree. Wow. Okay. So things are going great for Daniel, and then boom, came this decree that stops everything. I mean, Daniel's career was on hold. What the heck is Daniel gonna do? I mean, he's about to get the biggest promotion and paycheck of his life, to put it that way. And now all of a sudden, this comes and interferes with his faith and him personally, and things are on hold. Things are stuck. Daniel has to make a choice. Daniel's career was on hold. His future was on hold, and he had a choice. Would he put his faith on hold? That's my question to you. When things are stuck, when things are not moving, when things are on hold, will you also put your faith on hold? Well, let's see what Daniel does. Verse 10, now when Daniel learned that the decree had been published, again, huge news. Imagine that. It's like getting an email and saying, hey, by the way, if you ever pray again, you're fired. And not only are you fired, you basically going to get eaten by lions. So have a wonderful weekend. God bless. Well, I guess they would not put God bless. Anyways, had been published, he went home to his upstairs room where the windows opened towards Jerusalem. 3 times a day, he got down on his knees and prayed, giving thanks to God, just as he had done before. Savage. I mean, gangster. This guy is just savage. I love that. Not only did he just pray in the little closet, he did it wide open. He said, y'all thugs, you're going to see me. You're going to see me right. You're going to see me pray good. I don't know why we went to British to thugs right now, but this is quite the biblical story. If you've never read the Bible like that, man, you're missing out. I mean, this is crazy. Did you catch that last part? Just as he had done before. As he had done before. This means that he was doing this 3 times a day, praying on his knees, even while things were doing great. Even in the success. So in the good times and in the uncertainty, there was one common denominator to Daniel's faith. His prayer. I mean, man, is this thing savage? It's amazing. He didn't even break his streak. He didn't miss a beat. Nothing. Because he read the announcement. He had a choice. But he kept praying. So yes, for all of us, no matter how your life is doing, I don't think that you're about to be thrown to the lion's den physically. I don't think so. And if you are, bro, you're in a rough spot for sure. We're going to be praying for you. But we always have a choice. When life is stuck and life is on hold, will you put your faith on hold, or will you keep pressing forward and keep praying? The second thing is reading. This is super important. Of course, I'm talking about, reading the Bible, and because there's so much revelation that God wants to give us through his word. And unfortunately, so many of us miss it. And I'll be honest with you. Sometimes what I want to do is not always read the Bible. I want to just go through Instagram or watch a YouTube video when I'm bored and I feel stuck and I feel complacent. But that's not really going to help me as much as reading the living word of God that at the same time reads me and it helps me and transforms me. Aside from the Bible, which should be priority, I encourage you to create a habit of reading because, yes, readers make great leaders. Read from leadership books. I encourage you from either pick your good authors. Don't just read any books. Either read from Christian authors or authors that, are sharing things that align with biblical values. So leadership books. I love reading historical books. Usually I have about 3 books that I read, not all at the same time. I mean, I'm not going to show off like that. I don't do that, but it's kind of different things. So right now I'm reading a great book, which at some point I'll, make a video about. called civilization, the West and the rest, and what makes the West in the last 500 years dominate the world versus the East, that the East dominated for the last, previously to that. And then I'm reading another book called The Authoritarian Moment by Ben Shapiro. So that's more on the kind of cultural, political side. And then I'm reading another book as well from Pastor Samuel Rodriguez, kind of on the spiritual side. And then I got one other book that's more like a novel. So yeah, I just kind of like to keep it interesting. But the truth is that there's so much that we can learn from others and that can advance us in our lives if we only read. So you got nothing to do. Don't just swipe through Instagram. I get it. I can do it too. Read a book. Invest in yourself. Well, I'm not a reader. Yes, you are. You're a reader. You read Instagram posts all the time and Facebook posts all the time. You might not be a disciplined reader, but that's a whole different story. I guess you don't read that story because I get it. You're not a reader, but we all are readers. All of us. I was never a dedicated reader until I became a dedicated reader. And I was just like, you know what? I have to read. And after doing so, I kind of enjoyed it. So that's the second thing is amazing. So the first thing is you can always pray and you can always read and invest in yourself. And the third thing is that you can always give. I want to bring this up and kind of this is kind of what's going to bring a closure to this episode. It's not all about us. It's not all about you. I know. It's not all about me. The world does not revolve around me. The same way that Copernicus had to discover that the world did not revolve, that the universe didn't revolve around the world, the earth, the world doesn't revolve around us. It's a hard reality, but it's true. And here's what I want to make sure. Maybe in this season that you're stuck, what if you looked outside of yourself? What if instead being lost in your thoughts and, oh my gosh, pity me and woe to me, what if it's not about you right now? What if in this season it's not about you and God wants to use you to help someone in their calling, in their dreams? Have you ever thought about that? That dawned on me the other time. I was like, wait a second. If things aren't working out for me, why do I not give part of myself, my energy, my money, and my time to invest in someone else? What if part of your calling is to help someone else's calling? Ouch. I know, that hurts. It's like Joyce Meyer did a preaching called Circumcision and Rainbows. How Noah got a covenant from God through a rainbow. Beautiful. Abraham got a covenant with God through a circumcision. Painful. We don't all get the same share per se. Sometimes one season's great and it might feel like a rainbow. The other season might feel like a circumcision. Either way, it's not all about us. We can invest, we can give our time, our energy, and our money in other people because sadly, a lot of us just get stuck in ourselves. We get stuck in isolation. We get stuck in woe to me, my life. Oh, my creative gifts aren't being used right now. I don't know what to do. Well, maybe it's more about service right now than your gifts. Maybe God's asking you to serve somewhere. Let's bring it down to earth. Maybe you feel like, oh, well, the church, I want to serve in the church. I just want to use my gift while doing it. Well, maybe it's not that season. Maybe God just wants you to stack up some chairs to work on your humility and work on your character so that your character can support your talents that you have there in the future. Ever thought about that? I know I have, and I hadn't before until I think I read a book or I listened to a preaching and I was like, oh my gosh, you're absolutely right. So even in times that feel stuck, even in times that feel like there's nothing to do, there are three things to do. We can always pray, we can always read, and we can always give. So today is your choice. When things are on hold, will you put your faith on hold, or will you choose to move forward? We'll see you in the next episode of The Andrew Ramon Show.